Hello everyone, my name is Steven Zapata. I'm a concept artist, illustrator, online art teacher, and former instructor at Art Center College of Design. I would like to introduce you to my new drawing course, Form from Imagination, a course designed to help you draw with confidence from your mind. Maybe you want to be a professional illustrator or designer, maybe you want to be a master with a pencil, or maybe you just want to be the best artist that you can be. Beautiful goals. But it's not always clear how to improve the work that you do from imagination. Over the past 6 months, I've taken all of the little eurekas, tips, and essential exercises that gave me confidence drawing from my mind and compiled them into a sequential course. We start with the absolute foundations, covering the scientific nature of light and shadow, how to hatch, how to create flat tones, how to render spheres and cubes, and step by step, we move through combined shapes, complex shapes, organic shapes. We cover how to simplify extremely complex subjects like the head into basic shapes so that you can handle them more easily from your head. We look at how to understand and treat details. And by the end of these 14 chapters with over 50 video lessons, you'll be ready to do complex designs from your mind with fidelity and energy. And all the demos are done in pencil on paper, so you can do all of the assignments even if you don't have a fancy digital art setup. But I also have demos, instructions, and modifications to the assignments for those who do want to do them digitally. Here's how it works. Go to formfromimagination.com and sign up for the course. Download the assignment book and start watching the lectures. Do the assignments at your own pace. Take your time with them and use this self-study to develop your patience. When you're done, post your assignments in the exclusive community hub, and I'll personally critique your work with drawovers, diagrams, and advice. I want you to know, this course is no joke just because it's online. It is challenging content, and it is more complete than it would be if I was teaching this class at an art college as I have before. If I was teaching this class in person at Art Center today, I would just play these videos in class, knowing full well that they're the most concise, focused, edited, step-by-step way to convey the material. So I'm serious when I say, this course isn't just a substitute for a college-level course, it's better than a college-level course. And you don't have to pay thousands of dollars per credit and wind up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So thank you for checking out the course, thank you for watching this and for your support, and thank you for drawing and making your artwork. The world needs it. I'll see you soon. What up? What up? All right. Let me move some stuff. My testing audio, yeah, all right. We are back live on the internet. Hello, Renola, Xander, Draw Key, Daryl Grant, Saman, Rishi, Matej, Marceline, Coma, and Draw Key. All right, TV is fixed. Hopefully it stays fixed. And yeah, sorry that I had to depart from the previous stream so suddenly. I don't know, TV seems to be in working order again. It did, I was jumping around testing some things. I booted a game on the PlayStation and you know, I was just like opening apps and running games and stuff to see if everything was cool. And it did make a loud snapping sound and then sort of black screen. I pulled the power cord out and sort of reset everything and then it stopped doing that. I couldn't get it to do it again. So I don't know, hopefully it's better. And well, if not, we'll find out. Hopefully it's fixed. Sorry while I manipulate the microphone here. Hello, fish flops. Hello, fish flops. Let's play a little music. I feel like music today. Can you guys hear that creepy chanting or no? Should be very soft. Hello, Gurjot Singh. Hello, Drink Water. What do you consider live stream drawing? Studies or your work you want to do? I do all sorts of stuff on stream. It depends what I'm feeling. I try not to put a lot of pressure on stream. You know, if I sort of like pre-schedule it too much or what I'm gonna do or something like that, for my temperament, I wind up wanting to avoid it. So I'm just draw whatever like feels right that day. Steven, how can I use art to impress my crush? Don't do that. Do not do that. We're in Clip Studio today because Photoshop sucks. What am I trying to get back on Clip Studio? You kind of look like Crazy 8 from Breaking Bad. Don't know what to make of that. Let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb here. I agree, Photoshop sucks. Have you tried Corel Painter? Corel Painter was one of the first softwares I ever used. But I left it behind a long time ago. I haven't used it in probably over 10 years. I have to admit, I never really liked it. To me, Painter almost tries too much to like insist on like, please believe me, I definitely feel like traditional media. Please believe me. And that's just like not effective. I mean, you're using digital for a reason, you know, like it is supposed to be easy to navigate, easy to fix things, easy to move things. And just, I don't know, their selection options and things like that weren't there. And those things are actually pretty important to me. That's why I do always wind up going back to Photoshop eventually. It just has the selection stuff that I need. good points. I still use it, but over the years, it became so bloated and intimidating. Photoshop definitely has as well. Photoshop is, I mean, legacy hardware at this point. I mean, legacy code. I mean, it hasn't been updated for real, like in so long. I don't know, it's a really tired, slow piece of software, in my opinion. Adobe can't wait to make all of their tools totally useless and obsolete by digging in on generative AI. I disconnected and reconnected real quick. I don't know how long I was stalling out for you all there. Stream problems continue, I suppose. Didn't notice? Who knows what the heck is going on? I gotta put a sticky note on my monitor to remind me next stream that I do. I gotta stream with a different encoder to try that, see if that fixes our disconnecting and reconnecting issues. Have you interned before? I never interned. I applied for a couple scholarships, not scholarships, internships when I was back in school, but I didn't get any of them. They were highly competitive, and I was not a highly competitive guy. You think Mayans had PlayStation? Probably. I don't see what they would have been doing if they didn't have PlayStation. I think the scientific consensus is that their empire fell when they ran out of PlayStations, so that would imply they had them to begin with. Steven never makes art for free, so he never interned. That's right, baby. You're goddamn right. When you're right, you're right. Have you heard the new Eger statement? I've heard summaries, but when I last read about it yesterday, 2 days ago, the full text hadn't been released. Has the full text been released today? I didn't check my AI news today. I was gratified to see that even in the summaries that I read, they were saying that there would be protections for copyrighted content, which is only good sense. But you know, you got to read the fine print on these things, because summaries are really not enough with this stuff. The companies are going to deal with everything at a fine print level, so the surface level is really not very helpful at all. You need to investigate the fine print. A company will base a whole business model on a loophole in fine print, so. You should check out the artist Apollo Cacho. Does incredibly ornate Mayan and Aztec-inspired ink and comic stuff. I will put him in a tab. I think I've seen this stuff before, yeah. All right, I got to do a more careful search later. I'm getting mostly figures right now, not too much. I got to dig a little deeper later for some of the Mayan looking stuff. That person's got like a Mayan temple on their chest. That's cool. I'm gonna lower the resolution on this because I've always found Clip a little laggy. I do think it's, for drawing, it's better software than Photoshop, but it's never felt quite snappy to me. Let's just go under 5,000. I don't know if anybody else gets that. Just always found Clip a little laggy. Nothing's perfect, but damn, I'll take a little lag over, Photoshop's just not made for drawing. You'll be drawing and every 30 seconds or so, Photoshop will be like, oh, are you drawing or did you mean to be all the way in the other corner of the screen? And just like your cursor is flying all over the place and just windows are freezing and It's just like, come on, man, please, please, just use the editing tools. Please just open levels or curves. Please don't draw on me. It's like, Photoshop, shut up. I gotta draw on you, all right? I should save this. How important do you think being interested in something other than other artists' work? All the artists I like seem to be interested in something like RPG, fantasy, or horror movies. I feel I've never been. Just means you're a different kind of artist. I feel like I'm like that too. I'm not a super big fan of anything but art, and that's all right. Some artists are big fans of other things and others are not going to be. Just means you're just a fan of art. So, you know, you might go into, you might come to enjoy like horror movies and things like that as an extension of being into art. But yeah, maybe you're never going to love them just for their own sake, you know? I don't know. The only thing I like that's close to being separate from like visual art is reading. I like reading. That's my safe space. That's my like only like quote unquote hobby or rest outside of drawing and visual art. But even that, it feels like it dovetails a lot because it inspires me for visual art ideas all the time. But fortunately, I can still enjoy a book that I'm really like. Even a book that I'm like, this is undrawable, this gives me no ideas. If it's still a great book, I can just enjoy that for what it is. Unlike something like video games for me. I can't play a video game if it doesn't look great. I'm there for the art. I'm there for the art. I'm there to watch art move and do things and animate and walk through art and things like that. I had somebody on another stream say that makes me a game developer's nightmare, but I mean, there's every kind of person is going to play your stuff, right? That just happens to be me. I don't think most people are like me, you know? What are you reading currently, Stephen? I thought I would end the year by rereading my favorite book of the year. So I am currently rereading The Passenger and Stella Maris by Cormac McCarthy, which that was the first book I read in the year. It was the last book I read of 2022. I started reading it right when The Passenger came out, which I think was sometime in December, right? So I ended the year somewhere around there. And then it wound up being the first book I was reading also in the new year because, you know, overlapped. And yeah, now I'm reading it again to end the year. I'm a big rereader. I don't know if you guys are. I love reading things more than once. It's one of my favorite activities. Love a close read. Keep thinking my sketch over here is on my other monitor and it's not. I keep looking over at it. Can I unlock these? Yeah. Also rereading one of my favorites, says Matej Godmangast. I haven't heard of that one. Reynola says, Stephen, do you visualize the stories as you read them? Only the good ones. Like if I'm reading like a nonfiction and it's not anything visually compelling, no, my brain is not running the visualization process. I feel like it isn't. But a really good story, like the best stuff that I read, and I notice it when it happens and I get so moved. It's like, yeah, it's happening like a movie in my head, but damn, it's gotta be good. Those books that hijack the mind and just make the movie run in your head. I don't know, for me, they're few and far in between. And yeah, it's always a pleasure when they do. Hello, Layla. I'm truly sad that I cannot be reading at all times. The TBR keeps piling up. Yeah, it hurts. It hurts us. Create says, I try to make art as a way to make me happy, but it feels incredibly hard to do a lot of the time. Do you reckon it's just about pushing past that and waiting for the joy to arrive later in the drawing? There's two things that tend to be what's making art hard to do, in air quotes. One is external expectations, or your projected external expectations. So what you think you're supposed to be doing, what your portfolio is supposed to look like, what mom and dad are gonna think, what a school's gonna think, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So external expectations, and those you should practice closing down that process when it's necessary. You should be able to remind yourself that those aren't you and your practice, and be able to separate from them a bit. Maybe not completely, but at least a bit. And the second thing that makes art hard to do is the internal expectations. And the primary way that those present themselves is the backwards assumption that you are somehow supposed to be better than you are, which makes you judge the work that you're doing very harshly, makes you upset by what you perceive to be the low quality of your work. You imagine this, or you feel the pain and tension of this implied distance between your taste and your abilities. And that needs to be deprogrammed by paying very close attention to the truth of that situation, which is that you are exactly as good as you're supposed to be. There's nothing shameful about not being up to the level of your dreams. It makes perfect sense that you're not up to the level of your dreams. And if you are a beginner, an intermediate, you're exactly as good as you're supposed to be. You're exactly as good as your temperament, your life situation, the amount of practice that you have, your focus in that moment, your hunger level, your sleepiness level, your caffeine level. You're exactly as good as all of those contingencies make you. Nothing more, nothing less. And you've got to remember that your taste, unfortunately, is determined by the best stuff in the world. There's nobody in this stream right now whose taste is determined by mediocre, middle of the pack work. If everybody in this stream right now made a list of their top 50 favorite artists, we would probably be scandalized by the degree of overlap in that list. There would be a very strong, concentrated distribution where like the same 10 people wind up in the same top 10 over and over and over and over again with a little bit of variation, and there'd be very few outliers from like the top 50. That's just the way that art is now in this era where you're seeing all the art in the world and algorithms are pushing things in unequal ways. There's like a Pareto distribution on what gets displayed. The top 1% of artists are going to get 90% of the attention and the shares and things like that. So yeah, your taste is determined by the people at the top, by the freaks, the people who have been doing this forever. So your taste is just, your taste is for the absolute best stuff in the world. And the idea that you, who've been drawing for, a few years, if you're lucky, should be able to do stuff that's up to the level of your taste, which is defined by people who have been doing it for 30, 40 years and have freakish good luck and freakish temperament for it and freakish dedication, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So you need to deprogram that second source of artistic pain and friction by meditating on that, by investigating that, realizing the truth of that, and instead of just letting it land on you conceptually, as it probably is right now, if I'm making sense, you need to have it land in your heart. And you will know that it has landed in your heart when you start forgiving yourself for your perceived failures, when you let it go and you just extend yourself a lot of compassion and stop worrying about it so much. Clip's giving me a lot of lag right now, and I don't know why. It doesn't do this when I record on Clip, so I don't know why that would be. Since recording's only more resource intensive than streaming. Switch to Photoshop. See if Photoshop's being any kinder to me. All right, let's work in this for a bit. Sorry, Clip, I don't know what's going on with you. Weird session for Clip. We'll be back, we'll be back. Like I said, I don't know why that would be, because when I record in Clip, when I record working in Clip, it doesn't give me any lag at all, and I record on higher settings, much higher settings than I stream, so I don't know what that's about. All right. Pandemonium when? Curious, Steven? I've done a few pandemoniums. Come on, man. I've done a few pandemoniums. I know, I have to do a pandemonium pencil piece, though. The pandemonium that I've done is, yo, where's my full-size pandemonium? I only have pandemonium small? This was back when I was doing Paradise Lost digitally. I had this pandemonium. Where's the big version of this? Why do I only have the teeny tiny version? Should be in my finished art folder, but it's not. It must be deep, deep within the depths of my Google Drive. Or I need to do a finished pandemonium. I did this version of pandemonium that I did was them building it in the process. Oh no, it's all too low res. I had a lot of fun in here. Did a lot of funny beasts, monsters, demones working together, giant pig worm with a guy strapped to the top. Ah, it's all too pixelated. I can't say that. Cerberus hiding up there. A little Cerberus Easter egg. Cerberus with different kinds of dogs for all three heads. Of course, Cerberus's main head is a Pomeranian looking thing, like my dog. What's the most out-of-pocket compliment you've gotten from a non-artist? Mine is that one looks like a real artist did it. That's brutal. I don't know, people are not very creative about how they compliment my work. I don't know, I don't really show my work a lot. Not that many, I mean, here on stream, you guys all get what my work is and stuff like that. And it's not really a context for, giving compliments or giving feedback or anything like that. But, you know, I don't really, you know, I don't show in galleries, I don't put things up. You know, I just don't show my work a lot. I don't know how else to put it. Are you planning to compile your Paradise Lost works into some kind of volume at some point? Yeah, I would definitely put out a book, but there's much more to do. And the other thing is that you got to make the economics make sense, you know? It is whoa-nelly expensive to put a book out. But I have some resources, you know, I've got friends who could guide me through it and things like that. Oh, why did this export as a clip? What are you doing? I guess I didn't click the box that made it export a PSD with layers. I don't know why you would want a PSD that's flattened. That doesn't make any sense. All right, we'll just repair it because I don't want to relaunch clips. So let's cut this guy. Cut. Cut. Cut my references here. Oh, calm down. Oh, calm down. And Here's a trick for anybody who, I don't have Layer Factory installed right now because I just haven't done it since I got my new computer. But if you ever need to do brightness to transparency in Photoshop, here's how you do it. You go to Window, open the channels. This is the only thing I ever use channels for. Channels is actually very powerful, but I just never wound up making it a part of my workflow. So turn off everything that isn't the lines that you want, the drawing that you want. Control click the complete channels RGB thumbnail. So now it will select everything on all the colored layers, right? I'm going to invert that selection, which I hope my shortcut still works. Yep. New layer, I can remove that and just fill my selection with black, and boom. There is my drawing isolated on its own layer. So I could put a white layer underneath and boom, there it is. And it's got all the transparency. It's not stuck on a white layer. And it maintains all the gradients, all the clean edges, everything's, for the most part, perfect. Every now and then you get some little artifacts, but it's pretty rare, usually works. Would you ever do a Kickstarter to fund a book release, Stephen? I don't know, I would, it's hard for me to say anything about that stuff until I have a product, you know? I don't know. I think from my understanding, when the day comes that I would do a book, we don't know what the economics would be, right? New models might have come out. There might be better ways to print or something like that. My very low level knowledge of the book market right now is that the amount of capital that it takes to print even the minimum amount of books, right? Like books are printed in the hundreds of thousands usually. That's what, you know, if you're talking a book that's at a bookstore and stuff like that, that's the numbers that it needs to be printed in to make it make sense for the printer to do a print run, right? So the smallest amount of, so a niche thing like us, like just some person like me wanting to print a book, it's like, you gotta print a few thousand, maybe 10,000, something like that, which is expensive. You're gonna have to make it worth the printer's while to only run their printer on your 10,000 for a while. So it's a lot of capital that I can't realistically see myself having unless I did a Kickstarter. I think it would just be a necessity, but we don't know. I would prefer not to do that. As a person, I don't like all of the variables involved there. We've all seen Kickstarters and stuff go wrong. I don't know. My gut tells me I wouldn't want to do it alone. You know, I'd get like a publisher that has done a lot of Kickstarters and I would just let them run it, let them take their cut probably. Because I just need people who have a track record that know how to deal with all the problems, you know. And my preference would be to not have to do that, to just be able to handle it all on my end. Certainly, I would want the book sort of done, you know, have already paid someone to do the layout, to do the design and all that, or if the publisher does that. Certainly that for me at a minimum. It's like, I would need the book to be done. Like we're just collecting the money for running the prints, running the print process. That's all just speculation. I don't think about this stuff very often. Okay, Photoshop's being much nicer to me than Clip was for some reason. I don't know what I did to make Clip angry. Wow, my dog is snoring like crazy. Wufo says, it's so hard to shake off bad habits. Any tips on how to slow down and not autopilot? Tips about books or something about increasing focus? This is not a fun answer, but I don't think focus is something you can actually force. Not the kind of focus that you want for art. I think on a deep level, if you, all right, there's, I think of focus in two ways. There's the focus that you need when you need to do something that you don't want to do. And that, I think, is susceptible to all sorts of little tricks, right? Drug use, hypnotizing yourself, not literally, not like actual clinical hypnosis or something, but like hyping yourself up, like yelling at yourself in the mirror, having your favorite motivational fools screaming at you on the monitor while you're trying to do the work, just people telling you like, if you don't do it, you're a bitch, like that kind of stuff. We all know who does that. And that's the hypnosis that I'm talking about. And that I think is important, especially if you want to do like a commercial stuff and you're in the early part of having a commercial career, because I mean, sometimes you just need to do what you don't want to do, right? You've got to go through the hard part of having a career. But that only goes so far. I don't think that doing those kinds of things, the hypnotizing yourself, you know, taking caffeine and other stimulants and things like this, they will keep you at the drawing board longer, but I do not think that they will make you actually focused on the work. I think that there's a difference between being truly focused and just being at your desk doing work. And I think that for art, we need very little of just being at our desk doing work, and we need much more deep focus. So how do you get the real focus? How do you get that? This hurts to say, and it's not what anybody wants to hear, but for art, this isn't the case for everything else, but for me, for art, if you're not focused on it, it's because you are choosing to do the wrong stuff. It's because you don't really care about what you're doing. And some of that is your fault, right? All of our faults, because we're choosing stuff that we have bad incentives for, right? And other parts of it are because artistic culture is tricking us, right? We're being deceived by what we're hearing people say and what we think we're supposed to do to make other people happy. And we're just doing work that is basically the work other people are supposed to be doing. We haven't discovered what the heck we're supposed to be doing. If you're really doing work that resonates with you, it's different if you're really doing work that resonates with you, you will never need to consciously hunt for focus. You will just produce it naturally, right? There will be natural ebbs and flows of I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm depressed about something else. That will still affect it. But the work itself, you will naturally be focused on it because it's important to you. You have something that you're trying to do with it. Your work, if you're on a team, you're working with people that you like or something like that. But you won't need to fake it. You won't ever need to force it. It's different, of course, if you have a diagnosed thing like ADHD or something like that. That's different. Then it goes back to the first thing, drugs, right? Like something that a psychiatrist has prescribed that can help you out, something to sort of fill that biochemical gap. But short of that, there's only so in art, there's only so much focus you can force, right? It's not like we're talking about taking Adderall so that you can do accounting or something like that, right? Something that's just like an objective function that doesn't require a lot of creativity and inspiration, right? But creativity and inspiration, they have different needs, you know? You've got to be a different kind of vessel. You have to be working in a different way. Is it fair to distance yourself from artists and friends and both if I find it is subconsciously changing my thinking about art and making me want to do stuff which people find interesting? There's nothing wrong with doing things people will find interesting if you also find it interesting. If you don't find it interesting, then that's a problem. So finding out what I'm really interested about is the goal here? I would say so. I think that's step one for most artists. Art is way too hard to do a bunch of stuff that you don't actually care about. It's not a good way to spend your time. Hey, Joey. Joe says, what the, dude, we were supposed to play Fortnite. Uh-huh. It was you who said you were a responsible civil servant, not me. I was ready to throw it all away on childish video games. What could have been? What could have been, my friend? Mustafa says, hello, Steven. I bought a display tablet and I'm having a hard time getting used to it. It feels unnatural and isn't like drawing on paper at all. How can I get used to it? The marketing around these things where they say on paper experience feels just like paper, in my opinion, that is all lies from every single company. There's this weird marketing impulse to tell people that it feels just like drawing on paper. There's so many like digital brushes based on like, oh, this feels like charcoal, this feels like pastel, oh, this is the mesh program that simulates traditional. I don't know why we do that. And it's a lie. It does none of the softwares, none of the on-screen drawing experiences feel anything like traditional. Maybe if you've never worked traditionally, you can trick yourself into thinking that, but it's just not true. And if that's what you're looking for, I would sell your tablet and go back to paper. Don't actually do that, because there's a lot of, maybe do actually do that if that's specifically what you were looking for. But I love digital. I'm working digital right now. I do digital also all the time on stream because it's extremely flexible and it allows you to iterate and experiment and do versions, and it's easy to save things, and just, there's tons and tons of benefits. But I would never say that any of the program, software, hardware have the benefit of feeling like paper. I have never experienced that, never, not once. You've got to remember that this whole digital drawing thing is basically brand new, right? It's been around, I think there's been digitizer tablets since what, the 80s, early 90s, something like that. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Regular consumers didn't have them. They were high-end things like, they were expensive pieces of technology that only, they were like an industrial product. It was like Ford would have one in the car design shop, something like that. So I'm talking on that level. We've had that since like, I want to say 80s, something like that. And then it took a while for it to go up to a consumer could get it. So how long is that really? 40-ish years? These are basically brand new. Still, right? Not 40 years, my bad. It's still relatively early on these things. But the point is, when we look back in 100 years, this is going to look like baby technology. And when we look back in 200 years, the stuff from 100 years from now is also going to look like baby technology. And it's really not that advanced. This is all very crude when you think about it. The digital drawing experience sucks. It sucks ass for everyone. I don't care if you're using Wacom. I don't care if you're in Photoshop. I don't care if you're in Clip Studio. It's not what it could be. And one of the main reasons that no one is investing in this hardware and no one is investing in this software. Photoshop is not made for people who draw. Clip is a relatively small company. Procreate is a relatively small company. And the fact that you can draw on these things is like an afterthought. Adobe openly doesn't care that you can draw in their programs. Their brushes are meant for touch-ups. Their brushes are not even meant for doing this. They are not meant for strokes. That is not how Adobe thinks about them. Adobe thinks of their brushes as you're supposed to do this with them. Tap, 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 tap. That's how you're supposed to be using Photoshop brushes as far as anybody over at Adobe is concerned. Nobody is focusing on drawing and nobody is developing in a revolutionary or advanced way drawing hardware. And I don't know if the market will ever be such that they would be interested in it. So that long rant is to say, all of the options, if you are looking for, I need this to feel like traditional drawing, suck. They absolutely suck. They are not good. I've never experienced a beautiful drawing experience. I have experienced tolerable drawing experiences, but constantly, when I'm not on stream, when I'm working, I work like this. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is it lagging? Even though I'm on like computers that cost multiple thousands of dollars and I have very good tech and all of this, like I am constantly yelling at Photoshop, yelling at my tablet, troubleshooting things, wondering why things are lagging. Why are things going slow? Why is this thing not working? How is it possible that I have these expensive ass graphic cards and DDR5, 6000 megahertz, 32 gigs of RAM, more than Photoshop can handle, and still when I open up the damn just a normal brush that people use, why is it slow? Why is it slow? Why would it be slow after all these years? People use this. The best people in the world use this. Why is that stroke slow? Why? Because they don't care about us and there is no good solution for digital drawing. They're tolerable drawing experiences. Sell it. send it back. If you're not into digital for the iterations, for the ease of saving, just draw on paper. Paper is immaculate. It works perfectly. There's no lag. It's perfectly responsive. Everything that goes wrong is your personal, that was you. You ain't got to worry about the hardware, right? It's very rare that it's a hardware issue. You know, if it's a hardware issue, it just means you're not handling it well enough, right? You know, if there's a hardware issue in oil paint, that's a hardware issue that you could overcome with skill and foresight, right? Which is not the case with digital stuff. If you're looking for an exalted, transcendent, beautiful, sensitive drawing experience, traditional is the only way to go. I mean, you could have a $30,000 computer and Photoshop is just not ready to take advantage of a $30,000 computer. You could have a $6,000 Cintiq hooked up to a $30,000 fucking computer and Photoshop, Clip Studio, Procreate, nothing is even ready to use all that hardware. There's no meetings of the minds, no one's creating this pipeline, no one's actually doing the programming that's necessary to do all these things. They're all bad. They're all bad. How'd I get on this? What am I talking? Everybody's upset. We're all upset. They're tolerable drawing experience. Look, Photoshop. Why are my brush stuff? Why every time I reboot you, I have to click brush name, unclick brush stroke, re-click brush stroke to get my brush strokes to actually preview with pressure sense? It still didn't do it. Why are you like this? I mean, you can't help these people. You simply cannot help these people. That's just how I really feel about digital stuff. Again, clearly I see there's something very important with digital, right? Because I use it. I sit here and use it all the time, but I don't use it because it feels good. It is frustrating. It is frustrating down to the core. You use it for the flexibility. You use it for doing versions, for, you know, making it very easy to do large value shapes, to play with colors, to play with values. You use it for all of that. You don't use it for a nice experience. It's a garbage experience. It's gonna stay a garbage experience for a long time. But I keep smearing all over the paper. Exactly, like I said, a hardware issue that you could be resolved by your skill and foresight. You know, that's just a mechanical thing. You could just be a little lighter on your heel, you can keep your hand up. I don't smear my drawings, right? I do pencil drawings. You know, people think they're quite prone to smearing. I basically never smear them, not in a way that's appreciable. How do you think drawing digitally will evolve, mind drawing? You don't even need to go that far. Like, it's just nobody cares. You can imagine all sorts of great stuff, like a different kind of tablet surface where instead of only registering the one touch point from this magnetic resonance pen, it just registers contact in general, so that you could pick up a real brush and it's just registering bristles touching the surface in a particular place. Or you could pick up a rock or something and it would feel all the creases and flat parts and point parts and you could draw like that. I know there's like durability issues there, but how hard is that really to do, right? It would be a much more sensitive level of drawing digitally, but the problem is processing power, right? Computers are not as fast as we think they are, right? We have different expectations. So we think, wow, these computers are fast. And it's like in 15 years, we'll look back at the hardware we're using now and being like, that is laughably slow stuff. So computers are really not that fast. So processing power there is a problem. But then also it's a lot of research and development for a market that's really how big? right? So even if that's possible, it really doesn't sound that hard to do. No one's gonna put in the money to make that tech because there's just only so many people who would buy it. So it's not hard to imagine much better versions of our current drawing tools, right? Digital drawing tools. It's just, it seems unlikely we would get them. Stephen, you beautifully summed up my feelings with digital versus traditional. It's why I don't even try to emulate traditional media digital. It's fundamentally so different that I don't even try. I'm right there with you, Josh Chua. I do the same thing. That's why on stream, you basically only ever see me use the hard round. I just use that for basically everything. That's what I draw with, that's what I paint with. It's just, this is a unique digital experience and mark that I'm used to, and digital does that very well, and I just lean into it. And all these texture brushes that I have up here, I never paint with these. I use them when I need like some coverage like that, you know, if I just need something in the background, just add a little noise to something, but I never paint with it. It's disgusting. They're disgusting tools to paint with. They're shit. You have to abuse them like crazy to try to make them look good. It's like you have to do, literally, dude, if when you're out there and you're doing highly refined pictures, and if you watch some people who do really refined stuff a lot, they're literally like, you do a stroke and then you have to frickin' blur it, and then you have to take the mixer brush and you gotta wiggle it like this to get some variety in it. You're like adjusting every ugly goddamn thing that stupid Photoshop puts down. And I'm saying Photoshop, but don't not. They're all like this. And this is why I don't do product reviews. I get emails every week asking me to try out a new pen tablet, asking me to try out a new software. They want me to partner up, put an ad for them and things like that. I did one for Clip Studio because they specifically said, we're not looking for a specific thing. We know you've never used Clip Studio. We just want you to do a video where you use Clip for the first time. And that's what I did. And I wasn't looking for, I said nothing about this feels like the traditional drawing experience. I said, these are the weird digital tools that Photoshop doesn't have that are very interesting to me about Clip. Vector lines, being able to non-destructively make lines thicker, thinner, vectorized outputs from a file of arbitrary resolution. That's what I focused on. But I stopped doing that stuff because it's just like, I'm not gonna have anything profoundly nice to say about any tablet, anything like that. I tell people, get off Wacom. I use a Huion. I don't use a Huion because I think it's better than Wacom. I think they're both shit and Huion's cheaper. Does that sound like a nice review that Huion should pay me for? Absolutely not. So that's why I don't do that stuff. All this stuff is crap. It's all crap. Omar says, just sell out to Big Brush already. Dude, Big Brush, where's my money at? I will sell out if the money's right, I'll go back on everything that I said. Huion, Wacom, Adobe, everybody out there. I just want to say for the record, I absolutely 100% meant every word that I just said. But if the money's right, I'll say whatever you want. Anything. I could say some crazy stuff. Brand new sentences about Photoshop. If Photoshop dies, you will want what I said about it on Photoshop's gravestone. So just email me with a picture of the check. I'm not rich enough to have morals. Still don't mess up my damn brush palette. Come on, man. All right. That's what I like my brush palette to look like. That's what I like. I don't even know why, like, I only go from this one to this one. That's all I got. Barely ever click the other one. But that's what I like it to look like. I need to see which ones have transparency or not. Which ones have transparency jitter or not. When it's all solid, like there's no tablet being used, I can't stand it. It makes my brush palette useless. I ain't gotta freaking be back and forth all the time. Easy. Easy. Now I'm pissed. Not feeling good now. Why do I do these streams? Someone just says, Steven, my new tablet, it don't feel so good. And I'm like on a full existential bender. I'm dunking on a whole industry. An industry that I've benefited much from, by the way. I can't stand it anymore. Don't get me started on Cintiqs. Do not get me started on Cintiqs. Wacom, what are you doing? What is really different about each Cintiq from generation to generation? What is changing? The only useful change that most Cintiqs have is that 5 to 8 years after there's been a resolution generation change, going from full HD to QHD and from QHD to UHD, you finally catch up. It's like they just came out with a 4K Cintiq. What the fuck happened? And they always ship with dead pixels. And then if you didn't get it with the dead pixel from leaning on it, you will in 6 months. You'll have a hot spot of dead pixels under your hand. That's insane. That is insane for a $4,000 product, Wacom. That's crazy. What are you doing? And don't give me that. Don't give me that, oh, it's just a few dead pixels. Oh, you know, there's tolerance for the dead pixels. Oh, don't worry, it's just a few stuck pixels. Dead pixels on the screen of the people who visuals are their life? Their whole life is this thing's gotta look as good as possible. That's the people that you're asking to tolerate black spots in the middle of the visual thing they're trying to refine. No way. No way. That's crazy. It'd be different if you couldn't control for that stuff, by the way. Apple never ships a dead pixel. There's ratings for that stuff. They actually know how to handle this. I forget what it's called, but it's like A rating screens, B rating screens, things like that. There's just processes you can run where you can make sure you don't ship dead pixels. Like just, you're in the screen business now, Wacom. Sorry to say it. No, we're the digitizer business. No, you're not. You're selling screens. You're selling $4,000 monitors. You're in the screen business now. Don't ship dead pixels. I can't remember the last thing that I got with a dead pixel on it that wasn't a Wacom product. I haven't bought one in a while. But you see plenty of them. You know people who have them. You use them at work. They're out there. Oh shit. I'm all right. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Everybody's fine. How's the weather over there? Pretty nice today, not bad. Steve, did things go okay with the TV repair guy? It just seems like you've got a lot of screens on your mind. He fixed it. Now we just gotta see if it stays fixed. Everything's a racket. So I've got no faith anymore that it's gonna break again. It's gonna break again. I just know it. Everything's a racket. Everything sucks, man. It is definitely gonna break again. Can I ask where you got the references for the Mayan architecture? Just like Google and Wikipedia. I've been looking at a lot of stuff. Good to see you, by the way, Carlos. Oops. Oh. Wolfoo says, Steven, dude. I'll be real with Steven, dude. I'll be real with you. I'm scared of doing my art. I just default to generic study because my whole identity is safe there. I didn't try, so I didn't fail. Yeah, I mean, you're answering your own problem. You know it. You know it deep down. You've been called out. The pencil has stabbed you right through the heart. You know everything you're doing wrong. You don't need my permission or anybody else's to verify it or to encourage you to go fix it. You know what's going to happen if you continue down that road. Nothing good. You've got to fight. You must be creative, truly creative. You must do your craft, your craft. Your images, your pictures. Will Doggo get a Christmas gift, Steven? Doggo will get the Christmas gift that she always gets, which is a series of kisses from her daddy. I will wake up on Christmas morning and I will say, Fanny Pup, You beautiful little dog, come here. Mwah, 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 mwah. Who's a good girl? Who's a good girl? It's fun to design complexes. If you guys aren't into like architectural stuff and things like this, you got to try it sometime. Not just doing the one-off, but like designing a layout, a little architectural space, multiple buildings, their interactions with each other. It's good fun. It is the real deal, you know? I mean, all buildings we interact with are in complexes, or often in complexes, not always, but they're always in, you know, they're in some kind of context. They're in a milieu, often in relationship with other buildings. Can you separate artists from their crafts? Yeah. If you're talking about like the actual philosophical quandary of death of the author, as it's traditionally called, I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, smarter minds than I have been trying to figure that out for a long time. Even if it's possible, I'll tell you what, we tend not to. All right, that looks like a digital combination of those two sketches that I needed. Lucas, hello. Speaking of cool architecture, you're familiar with Viktor Anatov's work, art director for HL2 and Dishonored and a bunch of stuff. He started off doing industrial design. The name is not familiar, but with I've definitely seen his stuff because I've looked at a lot of Half-Life 2 and Dishonored art. So I'm definitely familiar with it, but as is usually the case when people bring particular people up, I know their work, but I forget their names. Hold on a second. I keep hearing some loud sounds. Let me just make sure my dog's okay. It's got to be coming from downstairs. I keep hearing something like something hitting a pipe. Ghost, my friend, if only. Stephen, what do you think about the sense of guilt or being bothered by reading something that is really good, but the author is an awful human being? Like, I feel that about reading Lovecraft. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. I just don't know. I mean, we definitely have a tendency as a culture to sort of forgive anyone anything if their works are great. And I don't know what to say to that, you know? I don't know what to make of that. Could you recommend any online material for a better understanding of the skull? Thanks a bunch, BV. I think Proco has some old videos on the Proco channel, specifically about the skull. I haven't seen them in a long time, but in general, all of his anatomy stuff was very accurate and well presented and clearly presented with all those 3D models and all that. So I could just recommend those in general for online material. Besides that, it's not specifically the skull in a specific sense, but there's like a 3-hour video of Steve Houston talking about the head. So if you just search Steve Houston head, it'll pop up on YouTube. And he barely gets into the details of the skull. He actually covers the even more foundational ideas of the head that a lot of people miss, you know? He just talks about like the most basic angles, like that the head kind of starts tapered at the bottom and then it kind of has these primary angles shooting up. And like trying to make people understand the real size of the mass of the cranium versus the face. It's like, even before skull, those just like basic proportional things he covers in there. If you haven't seen that, that's a good one. Have you heard of Shoshana Zuboff? She is an economist and philosopher, and her concept of surveillance capitalism is terrifying. I have not. Maybe I've heard some of her ideas, though. Hello, Iqbal. Do you enjoy cringe? I think if you're enjoying it, wouldn't that mean it's not technically cringe? I don't know, that might be a philosophical point. If you're enjoying cringe, are you sort of misidentifying a different sort of schadenfreude as cringe? Is true cringe only when it's unenjoyable, when you can't bear to watch it? When it's like unpleasant to see such a thing? I think there might be a real difference between cringe and just enjoying watching someone make a fool of themselves. Chuma says, hey Steven, quick question about your course. Can I see other people's feedback if I buy the core edition? Unfortunately, you cannot. It's just the way that the feedback community works. There's no way for me to give people access to it without them also being able to post in it, so. If they added some sort of viewer-only functionality, I would consider it, but right now I cannot. Have you tried the Tour box out? I just heard about it. No, I haven't used any of those like companion shortcut things. I just use my keyboard. I use the I use a Magic keyboard, the Apple one, which is pretty low profile. It's very thin and it's shortened, so it's annoying when I need, you know, a full keyboard. You know, I don't have like page up, page down, home. You know, it's very annoying in like Blender and stuff like that, where a lot of stuff is shortcutted over there, or Baldur's Gate 3 actually. It's so low profile that I don't know. I don't find it annoying to have it over to the side of my monitor, or I added these ridges of cork to the back so I can actually hang it over the top of my monitor too, if I want it just up there and like easily, just want my hands to be like as close to 90 degrees in front of me instead of swung out to the side as possible. Alexander says, thanks for your streams and meditations. It's a nice art space. Happy to help. What makes you prefer doing character designs over landscapes? I don't know. I mean, I think characters are just, I love the organic, and, you know, characters are by nature more often going to be organic rather than not organic. I think that's the big thing for me. You know, it's just, that's the kind of stuff I like to draw. But I do enjoy both. Most of my commercial work has been environmental design. Stuff like what you're seeing me do right now accounts for the majority of my commercial work. I enjoy them both. I mean, yeah, characters are just like, there's no getting around that. It's like you're going to connect with them quicker and more easily. But architecture and hardware and things like that are also really fun if you like to design, you know? They're more abstract, so they sort of become a broader playing field for design, in my opinion. Like, there's many more hard points on a character, especially like a human character. It's like, there's only so much you can bend it before it stops being human and becomes something very different. And you can try to go really out there with clothes, but it's like, even there, you know, it's still got to kind of hang on them. There's only so far you can go. But something like architecture, it's like, it could really be anything, you know? It's like you could draw damn near anything and then put a door on it, and it's like, it's architecture. All right, everybody, we've been going for about almost 2 hours. I tried to stream earlier in the day, but the repair guy, of course, came as soon as I started streaming. So I got to get going because I got a bunch of other stuff that I got to do. But thank you, everybody, for being here. I'll stay on for a few more minutes to answer any last-minute questions before I go. So go on, hit me. Fractithis says, I was high the first drawing meditation I heard from you months ago when you mentioned who cares if the art's bad, just practice anyways. I was like, of course you fool, it was always so simple. That's exactly what I'm going for. It is so simple, it really is. I'm glad it landed right. Congratulations, that's awesome. Suplex Mess says, I keep thinking of this curvative landscape subtly being a woman laying down on the side that you could only notice with a wide, broad back view. Anyway, happy drawing, friends. Wait, what? I don't know. Are you talking about my drawing? I don't see it. But good for you that you see it. That sounds fun. We could extend this thing up higher, higher. I did so many thousands of drawings like these back when I did a lot of theme park design. It's like when we were doing really high concept stuff, it was just like, I don't know what it is. That's not anything in particular, but that's the design language. We did thousands and thousands of these. And then later you would apply it to a whack-a-mole game or something like that. Who knows? Steve, have you seen the Garfield comic by Dave Raposa? I have. Yeah, quality content. What would you say would be an effective strategy to get into the gaming animation industry as a concept artist? There is no effective strategy. It's not, it's still a highly desirable, very cloudy art job, unfortunately. So it's hyper competitive and people hire their friends. There's no effective strategy. But in the spirit of what I just said, I'd say the number one first step for most people is have great work, which, kind of a given. Make friends. Make close friends. It's not networking, right? It is networking, but it's not just networking for its own sake. It's a small, difficult industry, so it's easy to make friends once you show you're serious and you sort of go to events and things like that. Make friends, show them your great work, keep putting stuff out there, and you'll break through eventually. Most people break through a connection. That's most people. Not always. Some people get lucky, but by definition, the only way without a connection, the only way you're going to do it is just your work is just stands out like crazy. You've got to do really special work. Would you say it's better to push your art in the direction of a style that the studios you want to work for generally do, or should you cater your work to a specific studio? Those feel like the same thing. Push your art in the direction of a style that the studios you want to work for generally do, or should you cater your work to a specific studio? It's a very tricky thing because, you know, often what you really need to get the job is you need to have artwork that matches the next thing the studio is doing, which you don't know what that is a lot of the time. You know, a studio isn't always doing the same kind of thing they've done before. So it can be very tricky. If you know you're dealing with a studio that is very consistent, like Blizzard, for example, then I think it makes sense to basically cater your work specifically to them and their style. But if you're looking at a studio that doesn't have as distinct a look, or that they do a variety of different things and they sort of flex and bend with the things that they release, it sucks to say, but really you kind of gotta, you're only gonna get hired if you happen to be doing exactly what they need at the time, you know? That makes it really hard, so it does take a good amount of good luck. So yeah, if you know you want a studio that is consistent, then it makes sense to tailor your work. If it's not a consistent studio, I would focus more on doing work that don't try to tailor it so much to them. Try to do very good work and try to do work that is the type of product that they need. You know, even that's hard to say. It's like, it'll switch with everything that they do. It's like, I don't know, imagine you were really trying to work for Bethesda. You were like, well, you know, Elder Scrolls, right? You know, ain't they doing that? You know, and you did fantasy art, and it's like, that's what Bethesda does. That's what Bethesda does. That's what Bethesda does. And then you get your portfolio in front of someone at Bethesda, and they're like, really nice fantasy work, but you know, we're doing Starfield for the next 5 years, and you know, you haven't shown us you could do sci-fi, so bye-bye. It's like, shit. You know, that is how the industry works. It kind of sucks that way. Vitor says, hi, Stephen. Thank you very much for your content. I was very close to give up, and watching your videos lives helped me this year to move towards a healthier way of seeing my relationship with art. Yes, yes. That's awesome. I'm very happy to hear that. What drawing tablet do you recommend for someone who is trying to get into the digital medium? You missed the rant earlier. You missed the rant. At this point, I use Huions now because they're cheaper, and I don't think they're as good as Wacom. I think they're as bad as Wacom. That's my honest opinion. So I think Wacom is generally considered the sort of premium, expensive digitizer brand. They have gravely disappointed me over the past 10 years or so. They're Huion. I haven't tried XP Pen, but I know people who use them and stuff like that. It's probably all the same at this point. Yeah, I think go for the cheaper stuff. That's what I would say. Right now, there's no great experience. If you strictly only want to draw and you don't have needs for like the full suite Photoshop and things like that, consider the iPad Pro. I think it's better in a lot of ways than the experience you get on a Huion drawing screen or a Cintiq drawing screen. I find it much snappier, much more responsive, but it limits you. You know, you can't run full Photoshop. You can run full Clip Studio, but you know, you're on a little screen, you know, the menus take up a lot of the space. It's just not if you're trying to do more complicated stuff, it's not the most comfortable experience. If you're trying to do very straightforward stuff, and you just want to do drawings and something like Procreate and things like that, then it is quite a comfortable experience. But yeah, it's not for the workflow everybody wants. But I do really like I think the iPad Pro drawing feel is better than a lot of the other stuff. The problem with a lot of the other tablet manufacturers is sometimes the drivers really suck. The XP Pen was the first one I found with really good drivers and setup besides Wacom. Yeah, the drivers are an issue. I don't know, because I've had horrible experience with Huion drivers and I've had horrible experience with Wacom drivers. I mean, you use these things long enough, you will have the experience of needing to roll your drivers back at some point. It's gonna happen to almost everybody. If you use them long enough, you'll find that just nothing works. Just everything's all messed up. You're getting tons of glitches and stuff like that. And almost everybody has to go through the experience of rolling their drivers back with these damn things. But yeah, I wish I could promise you any of the experiences were good, but I'm very down on digital art. I mean, I tolerate drawing digitally at this point because there's huge benefits on flexibility and iteration and experimentation. But the experience itself, basically universally across the board, is slippery, laggy, slow, shitty. It just doesn't feel good. But that's the trade-off you do for. That's the trade-off that you do for, infinite paper, rescaling things, easy to do perspective. I mean, just the trade-offs are obvious, but the experience itself is not good. Not good. And I've been drawing digitally since I think I started when I was 11. And I had my first, using the mouse, and I got my first drawing tablet, my first Wacom. I was 12 or 13 years old, very, very young. So I've been drawing digitally for damn near 20 years now. And right off the bat, I was like, this is annoying, but there's benefits here. And I have been through so many generations of the technology, and it has never crossed the threshold to being just, this is a great experience. It never happened for me. There was, in fact, only one generational, real change for me, and that was the iPad Pro. So I started with a I think they don't make the Graphirs anymore. I started with a Graphire 2 when I was 13. Eventually got an Intuos 3 that lasted me damn clear over 10 years. I mean, they don't make them like they used to. But everything that I tried, going from Graphire to a small Intuos to a large Intuos to the new generation Intuos Pros, getting a medium of that, getting a large Huion, getting a large Intuos. I got a Cintiq there in the middle for myself when I was 17, that I really thought that was gonna be the big switch. I wound up selling it to a friend because I realized that it was not ergonomic. It hurt my back and stuff like that. So I stayed with screenless tablets for a long time. Used 2 different kinds of Cintiqs at work over the years. Now doing Huion tablets and Huion screen tablets. Through all of those different products that I tried, all of the different ecosystems, everything, on that side of things, everything that wasn't the iPad, it all felt the same. Nothing ever felt different. It always felt, when we're talking technology from 2003 to technology in 2023, it always felt the same. Kind of laggy, kind of shitty, kind of slow. If you make the brush too big, everything gets wiggly. Glitches, things crashing. I got to restart Photoshop. It's been the same experience for 20 years. But I mean, the graphics cards, the memory, it has increased exponentially what is available for these tools, and the experience has stayed frozen. It's taken all of that extra horsepower to just maintain the same mediocre experience as the programs have just taken up more resources and all that. Using Photoshop now does not feel any different to me today from how it did when I was 13 years old. I promise you. It feels exactly the same. Doing strokes, when I was 13 years old in Photoshop on my Graphire, doing strokes felt exactly the same. With 32 gigs of DDR5, 6000 megahertz memory, and a NVIDIA 4070 Ti, the strokes don't feel different. And when I was on a Graphire, when I was 13 years old, when I dragged my brush across the screen, look at how far behind my cursor the brush stroke is. You can see the ghost, right? Look at how far behind the cursor my brush stroke is. Look at that. There's like a full brush width behind the ghost. Do you see that? It was exactly the same when I was 13 years old. Nothing has changed. It is exactly the same. It is exactly the same. The only thing that felt different was the iPad Pro. I do think the drawing experience on the iPad Pro is truly different. Slightly better. Again, I would not say anything feels great. I would not say anything feels like a pleasant experience. The iPad Pro does feel better than this, but the limitation is what's your workflow, right? If you're a pro, unless you're delivering just flat illustrations, you basically can't realistically work just on the iPad. You know, you need a layer workflow, you need blending modes, you need masks, you need complicated filters and things like that. And it'll probably get there at some point, but right now you simply cannot comfortably do that on the iPad. You need full Photoshop, you need full Clip Studio. You can export back and forth, and I did that for work for a long time. There was, around the pandemic, there was probably 2 full years there where all of my work, my professional work, was mostly line drawings. I just wound up in that lane. And I did basically everything in Procreate for like 2 years. But that was because I was really only delivering line drawings with light values on them. And when I needed to correct things, I would shoot it over to my iMac, fix the layers, copy paste things, rescale things in Photoshop, send it back to Procreate, work the lines. And then when it came time to do the values, I couldn't even really do the values in Procreate. I would just do those in Photoshop because it was much quicker. So the drawing experience is better in Procreate, in my opinion, but it's still not ready for a full, complicated workflow. And yeah, it makes me laugh that drawing in Photoshop feels exactly the same as it did 20 years ago. If you don't believe me that there's no way that could be true, if you're new to digital art, go to the Wayback Machine and look up goodbrush.com. That's Craig Mullin's website. Look at the digital art that Craig Mullins was doing when he was the only person doing digital art. It could be at the top of ArtStation today. Only Craig could do it. There's still very few people who can make work that looks that great. The tech has not moved on at all. Just nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. Craig speed ran all of it right at the beginning of digital art. He already had maxed it out at what the quality could look like. I can't do that stuff. With all of the tools, there's so much more power in Photoshop, the processing power, all this 3D tools. You can't. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Yeah, it just hasn't advanced. So why am I talking about this again? To anyone looking to get a drawing tablet, just buy the cheapest fucking one. Just buy the cheapest one. It's fine. It is fine. It will do everything. There is a minuscule, not even a 1% improvement from going to the cheapest option to the most premium option. And yes, there are driver problems, but in my experience, you still can't say your driver problems will be solved if you jump up for the premium of Wacom, because Wacom's drivers suck. It's a fucking crapshoot. It's a weird matrix of like, if you have this tablet with these drivers and you run this kind of PC, Mac, or Ubuntu, you might get lucky and get a perfect mix. but that matrix isn't out there for anyone to shop with, but you could map it. It's just like, it's freaking random. It is random. All right, I can't believe I did that rant twice. It's annoying. It's annoying buying new computers every 5 years and just having everything run the same, you know? It's annoying. It's annoying. I think things are better in the 3D world. I don't think, 3D artists, correct me, please. And I know you guys have your own problems, but I do think the 3D stuff is still so cutting edge and so resource intensive. I don't think 3D people have these problems. I think people who use mostly 3D programs, I think that they do experience a real benefit when they've got heavy gear under them. For drawing, not really. I hate to say it. I wish it was true, but I mean, every 5 years, the legacy code on things like Photoshop burns my computers to the ground, and I need to buy a new one just to restart to the base mediocre experience that I've had since I was 13 years old. Sucks ass. It sucks ass. You know, I just bought, you know, I switched to a new PC 2 weeks ago, you know? I paid about two grand for it. Like I said, you know, it's good stuff, you know? i7 Intel processor, tons of cores, tons of efficiency cores, NVIDIA 4070 Ti, all this RAM, you know, new generation RAM, overclocked everything. It's just like, Photoshop just feels the same. It feels the same. And in 5 years, Photoshop will become so bogged down with another 5 years of crap that this computer won't work out and I have to trash it and I'll have to get a new one. It's like, it sucks. It sucks. All right, I'm done. Now I'm done. Now I'm gonna start saying goodbye. Your viewers go up when you rant about tablets. I know people love the sales and hardware stuff. People love hearing reviews. I mean, of course the numbers will go up. People just love that stuff. Hi, Stephen. Any advice for feeling overwhelmed by the sheer volume and variety of artwork out there on the internet? I often feel inundated before I even begin. What I usually recommend, and I have done this before, is do a social media and art detox. Just stop looking at art for like a month. It's hard, but it really benefits a lot of people when you're feeling overwhelmed. When I did it for like 2 months. I went through my Instagram and I unfollowed everybody who did art. I like completely trashed my whole art algorithm. You know, I still wanted to use Instagram to follow, like, back then you would actually see your family's posts and stuff like that on Instagram. So I went through and the people I was following, this is early Instagram, it was actually reasonable to sit there for a half hour and go through your whole follower list and unfollow stuff. So I unfollowed everybody. I refused to go on ArtStation, CG Hub, whatever it was at the time, and I only looked at stuff that I had to look at for work. That is to say, I was working at a studio at the time, so the work that my coworkers were doing and that the studio was doing and that we needed to work on together and things like that. And outside of that, I completely stopped looking at art. And yeah, I did it for, if I remember correctly, it was somewhere between a month and 2 months, and I felt much better. I felt much better. And then I just refollowed everybody and started looking at the sites again. And I've done it not for that long ever since, but I've done it for a week or two here or there, intermittently, in all the time since. Yeah, sometimes you just need to, because there's a part of your brain, you're an artist, but there's a part of your brain that is still just an art fan. And I think that the trick that happens when you starve it of looking at art is that the part of you that is an art fan and is used to, you know, in this current milieu, just all the art it could ever want on Instagram, video games, things like that, I stopped playing video games too, by the way, I think, in that period, because I felt like this is art too. When you starve it of that part of your brain, it turns to the other part of your brain that is an artist and say, well, let's go, motherfucker. I want to see some pictures. And that's a good place to be in. When the part of your brain that is an art fan only has the part of your brain that is an artist to ask for pictures, you're gonna start doing some drawing. You're gonna start doing some drawing happily. And you'll just be much more appreciative of being able to see ideas and things like that. Modern Day James says, what if you look at everyone else's art to remind yourself how good you are? I think that's a great place to be in. I mean, fuck everybody. I mean, screw everybody who isn't you and just frickin' mine their failures for your own sense of self-worth. That's the best. James says, no, I don't have an ego problem. I'm just always right. I mean, someone's at the top of the dog pile, right? Everyone says there's always someone better. There's always someone better. Except for one person, that's not true. If you go all the way, there's a finite number of people on earth. If you go all the way up to the top, there's one person at the top who's just kicking ass. They're just the fucking best. For them, there's not always somebody better. They are number one. And they get to look down on us and just life must be ecstatic. Just everyone they look at, they're like, damn, this is a great reminder that I am the fucking best, baby. And it might be you, James. It might be you, brother. It might be you. You know, if you're on that level, yeah, screw everybody. Stomp them, step on them, blow up that ego, soak it all up. Get in while the getting's good, you know? Get in while the getting's good. All right. I wasted too much time doing the tablet rant again. So I'm sorry, guys, but it's getting, now it's 4. I gotta walk my dog. I'm behind Sketch here on the dog walk. And I gotta fit in some more work before it's time to cook dinner. So I'm gonna roll. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tolerating 2 anti-tablet, anti-software rants. Just, again, I love digital. I do it all the time. If you look at the streams, you look at the videos, I do digital all the time. Again, I wanna be very clear. I think the trade-offs are worth it. I just also wanna be very clear that, in my opinion, there is no great digital drawing experience right now. That's the point, that's it. Long story short, that's it boiled down. It's just a tolerable experience if you can tweak things right. Are Blackwings overrated? They're lovely pencils. They're still just graphite pencils. I mean, they're not doing anything that other graphite pencils can't do. That eraser can be pretty nice. It's a nice thick eraser. That's useful. Loving the environments, my friend. Thank you, James. Sketching a, we'll see, we'll see what's doing when I have to solidify one of these into a nice archetype drawing, but it's been fun doing a lot of exploring. I gotta save this, by the way. Save. All right, everybody. Take care. Happy drawing, and I will see you all soon.